Hi, this is Rena, and this is my friend Lily.
Hi.
And this is another episode of the Philosophical Goob-za, because there's two. And we're kind of doing a section of the series where we're talking about happiness and how one can practice being happy and what it means to be happy. We're kind of taking a journey on the way there. So last week we kind of talked about happiness and what it means when people talk to you and maybe don't have the best intentions and how that can affect you. And now for this episode, we're going to go into a little bit more of the psychology and philosophy side of like negative self-talk. So what's like something like negative self-talk?
I mean, I think it's important to talk about negative self-talk because people are so mean to themselves. And like, I don't think they realize all the negative self-talk that they say about themselves, even if it is in a joking manner. And, I think it's self-explanatory what negative self-talk is. It's usually any kind of language or descriptives that you use with negative connotations, mostly when it comes to you. And I think that could be very harsh and impactful on your life because it could be very restricting on the type of mindset that you're developing for yourself. So if you're continuing to speak in a negative tone about yourself, then how is that going to shape your mind? Your mind's gonna get used to all that negative self-perceptions to the point where it might even influence your perception of the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And like kind of into that like idea there again, I hate to keep referencing Aristotle, but it's the person that I've read the most recent, so it comes to mind the most. Well, and it's also kind of one of the kind of fathers of philosophy. But he in his idea of like eudaimonia and happiness, he says that a lot of what makes you the person you are your habits and like what you practice. And so obviously we can see how like negative self-talk definitely falls in line with that, because if you keep practicing, like you said, you keep practicing, this becomes like who you are and like who you identify yourself as, which is so like devastating.
It is, and that's why I said I think some people don't realize or are aware of how much they do that to themselves. So it's almost like you're conditioning yourself, but you're unaware of it, like it's unconscious.
Yeah, and it's like kind of perplexing to me just a tiny bit, because like I hate to think of like, or not hate, but like really it's sad to think about somebody like looking in the mirror and literally saying like you're so ugly or something like that, because like I like haven't ever thought of that, because like even taking out like beauty standards and stuff like that, like going back to a little bit of what I said last week, like you should be your own best friend.
Exactly, and that's what I try to tell others as well. You can be your best motivator.
Yeah.
But you can also be the person that brings yourself down the most. So like, who is it that you want to be for yourself? Do you want to be someone who's uplifting and that you build upon your esteem and your confidence, or do you want to be your worst enemy and bring yourself down with negative self-talk? And then how is that going to make you feel? Obviously that can lead to a lot of depression and anxiety, low self-esteem, low confidence, etc., etc. So how do we even begin to start breaking that mentality within people who are so used to perceiving themselves in such a negative way? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then on top of that too, like perceiving yourself in a negative way, and then if you're doing that and practicing that with yourself, because like your knee-jerk reaction when either like something doesn't go your way or it's like not working out how you like or something like that, what's going to be your knee-jerk reaction to the public too? Like if someone else messes up or someone else has something that doesn't fall in line, will your knee-jerk reaction be to also criticize them as harshly as you do yourself?
Yeah, and I understand that, and I can see that a lot with how people also perceive others. If they're perceiving themselves as negative, then they're going to see other people as negative as well. Sometimes, not all the time, obviously. Maybe it's more, maybe for some people it's like, oh, it's just me, other people are fine. So it's like unique cases, person by person. But even within the mental health industry that I work within, a lot of the people that I work with often have very negative mindsets, very negative self-talk. So then for me to transition them and transform their identity and help them build a better relationship with themselves, we first have to address their mindset and where that's coming from. And a lot of the times it comes from very negative core beliefs about themselves that maybe someone else instilled in them at a very young age.
Like we literally just said that in the last episode. Like
but oftentimes that's where it comes from, because someone else put that idea into their mind, and so they continue life, school, work, whatever, believing that core belief that they were told, and they'll continue reinforcing that themselves, like, oh yeah, I am stupid because I can't get good grades in school, so that must mean I'm not smart. And again, that maybe derives from a younger age, maybe a parent or another person called it stupid. And so it's very necessary to address how we're speaking because words do matter a lot.
Yeah, and like who we're listening to. Like you were just saying, like a lot of these mindsets and like where people come from are from like family members. It's basically someone they cared about and like thought they're like and valued so much more than themselves that they integrated that one phrase or one saying like into who they are.
And you know, when it comes from someone that you care about, how can you not take that personally? You know, if it had been a stranger, then maybe it'd be easier, a bit easier to be like, okay, they don't know what they're talking about. They don't even know who I am.
Yeah.
But when it comes to with like a family member or a friend telling you something negative, like you take that personally.
Yeah.
And you know, if someone that you care about that much thinks that way of you, then that's going to shape the way that you view yourself because obviously these people know you a lot better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then if you don't have like not necessarily the strength, because like obviously it's not always in like the utmost control, like if it's a parent, because then it's like, well, I have to grow up with them, you know, like so especially if you have to like ruminate in that headspace and kind of be around that, because it's a different vibe too, like when you're around somebody that said something like that and then you have to cohabitate like in a space like that, like it's so much tension like on your own body too.
It's toxic.
Yeah,
because how can you get yourself out of that? Obviously your parents are hopefully supporting you and providing for you. Yeah, so how do you even get out of that situation where they're maybe not like physically but like emotionally and mentally abusive?
Yeah, definitely. And then like if you don't have anywhere to go or anyone to talk to, like I'm sure that's how people get into situations. And then on top of that, like if you don't have not necessarily the wherewithal, because that's too strong a term, but like the ability to pull yourself out of that and like kind of give yourself a broader scope to where like, oh, the world's not like this, it's just these people that like I'm around.
Yeah, and I've seen cases like that as well with my own patients where they've grown up in very toxic environments. Parents were very, you know, negatively, emotionally, mentally abusive towards them. And once they escape that environment, then they're like, wow. Yeah. This is not everyone is like that. Yeah. You know, they broaden their horizons and meet new people who aren't going to beat them down like that.
Yeah. And that's the thing that's crazy too, is like I've seen such a wave of differentiation when it comes to how we talk with each other now, because I think there's a clear divide between like a joke that's self-deprecating versus like someone who genuinely means like, oh, I'm stupid, you know, when they say something like that. Because like I've been around people and stuff where I'm like, oh, I'm so dumb and like did blah blah blah, and they're like, no, you're not, and I'm like, dude, chill, like I don't really think I'm stupid. I just think like I'm a little airheaded right now or something, you know. So like that tone and shift has been so dramatic, like night and day, to where like everyone's very like, no, don't, you know, like at least in California.
Yeah, and I can say that from my own experience as well. I think people also catch what I'm saying and kind of transform that more into like a positivity. Yeah. Even if I am joking or not, and I can appreciate that because that shows that my friends and my family are there to uplift me and support me, not like, oh yeah, you are stupid. Like agree, you know? That would suck. I'd be like, yo, chill. Yeah. So I'm very grateful and appreciative that I'm surrounded by such positive people in my life. And I think that's very important to think about as well. Like, what kind of people are you surrounding yourself by or with? Because if it's people who are just bagging on you all the time, then that's not going to give you or serve you anything in your life. It's no benefit. Yeah, and and also like social settings are really interesting too, to see like friend dynamics, because sometimes I think like, oh, like people are bagging on each other but maybe they don't mean it, and then there's social settings where it's like they bag on each other and it just sounds serious. And it's just like one is like playful and it's almost a weird warped way of showing you're close, because like some of my really close friends are, oh my god, you're so dumb, you know, to one another, but we're like, of course you don't think that because like you love them, right? But you have that camaraderie and that closeness already, and then you have jokes like that, not like right off the bat, hey idiot, you know what I mean, or something like that. You're like, whoa, I don't think I like you. Yeah, it's pretty harsh. Yeah. And I don't think I've been around people like that either. So I think it's very good to build a social support system and network that you know that you have confidence in for them to bring you out of a negative space if they need to. Yeah, and to recognize it. Like I think that's so sad when people are in like negatives, like they're in a negative headspace and then they have like friends or family and they can't really escape it. But there's something to be said about agency too, you know, and like once you see something, like then making a change. Not necessarily with family, because you can't really choose that unless you're obviously over 18, then you can move out and do whatever you want, which then at that point it's like, okay, now there's like not really
there's just understanding, but not necessarily a justification for staying in a headspace like that. Because like, if it were between that or not, I'd probably do anything to move out, you know.
Right. And sometimes in situations like that, I would hope that you have the strength enough to be that person for yourself when no one else is.
Yeah.
And telling yourself that I'm not gonna let them get to me, so that, or that it leads me to being my worst enemy as well.
Yeah.
And taking the steps necessary to fight against that negativity and be your own positive influence.
Well, and that's, I think, where that being your own best friend thing definitely comes into hand, is like, if you're not your own best friend, because like if you're your own best friend and then someone like is a jerk or something, you're like, no, you're not. Like my friend and I were at an event, and we were in the like not will call line, but I had to get a ticket because I like basically lost mine. Girl, stop. And when I was, then like we were in the line and we're like in cute little clothes because it's a little like party event. And this guy was like standing super close to us, like with his friends, but he was like super close. It's like 18 too. And I was like, okay, child, please like get away from us. And he was like super up and like closer to me. And then I'd keep stepping back and I even went distance, like personal space. And then he didn't get it. Like he's like obviously on something or drunk or something. And then it happened again, but he got close to my friend Aubrey, and then that's when I was like, look, you need to back. And I was like, all of a sudden, like, your voice is like, I'm here, you know, like, where if it was me, I think it's also because, like, for you, I think you have more tolerance, because, like, what's the line where you can, like, get mad? I think that's also something, like, we should talk about another time, is girls and women, and also, like, obviously men and everyone else, too, has this, but predominantly with women, I think we get in our headset, like, what's enough to like be able to fight back or talk about something without sounding like you're just crazy.
Right.
So
and we do get that a lot.
We do, and I think it's from all this past like 1950s hysterical woman, you know, like, and all this like false stuff.
I mean, hysteria was a mental health issue.
Literally.
That was associated mostly with women. So.
Yeah, overwhelmingly. And how come like when a guy's in a rage fit, we're not like, oh, there's the rager again, or something, like, you know, like there's no discriminating thing for them. That's because it's like the stereotype of strong masculinity, and like women, if we are, it's like not abiding by like obviously a stereotype.
Right. So like bringing it back to, you know, the whole negative self-talk and positivity, I think it's necessary to also begin the steps of positive self-talk. So if we can kind of discuss that a little bit, like what should some steps be, and like how can you develop yourself to be your best friend? Like how do you know?
So Aristotle would say basically like part of it, which obviously not to the full extent because then you're not genuinely doing it, is kind of like practice, emulation. So like and like, you know, you do have that saying, fake it till you make it.
I was just gonna say that.
And it literally works. You see that with in speech, they have something called power poses. And so what happens is like 2 minutes before your speech, you'll be in the back or wherever, and you'll basically take up a lot of space. So this is gonna look kind of silly, but it's like sitting like this, or like just, you know, big like spaces, or the Superman or Wonder Woman pose too. Yeah, definitely. And then once you do that, there's statistical evidence showing that confidence rates boost tremendously to where like the person is not nearly as nervous as they would be before.
You know, that's funny because, you know, I've had two major presentations the past like month or two, and I was so nervous in the beginning because they were both over Zoom, which was cool, but I was still very nervous because this is presentations for my degree. Yeah. And before my Zoom meeting, I would walk around my room and just really take up a lot of space, because for me, I guess it was kind of like releasing that stress and anxiety through body movements. And I mean, I passed both presentations. I know. I was so happy. Yeah. But yeah, it really did relieve a lot of what was going on in my mind, all that anxiety. So I think that would be that's a very great point to start being your best friend, maybe even like through your own body, like it flows through your body.
Well, and like the thing is about being your own best friend too is like you have to start the love. It sounds cliche, but like here, because like you're the only person with you when you're born, when you die, like everything.
Yeah, you know yourself best too.
Yeah, and like maybe if someone told you that something you like or practice or whatever is dumb or silly or what, like what do they know? Like
yeah, exactly.
And like we went over this last week too. Like everyone's just making it up as they go. So for someone to condemn or shame someone else's act outside of violence, you know, like for themselves, like F what they say. Who gives a shit about them?
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of projection as well. Like, you know, if they say, oh, what you're doing is stupid, it's most likely that they don't have the confidence enough to do what you're doing, or, you know, they don't feel like they have the abilities to do that, and so they need to take that energy out onto you so that you could also feel the same way that they're feeling.
100%. Yeah, definitely. And like with the loving yourself and basically being your own best friend, find something cute to do with yourself. Like, you know, if you like painting or like going and collecting rocks, and I'm just naming things I like. Yeah, well, okay, yeah, I still paint rocks, but that's a different story. But like anything you want to do that's like out and like out there, and just do it on your own, and like no one's there, so number one, no one can judge you and be all like silly with their words,
right?
And then on top of that, like you learn to love like what you do and what matters to you, because that's all that matters. Like you're the one that lives with you, so like.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it ties back to a lot of unconditional love, unconditional acceptance. I feel, for me personally, to express that, I do a lot of positive affirmations, and that has really developed my relationship with myself. Because why not say positive things about yourself?
Yeah.
In the mirror, or say it every morning or every night before you go to bed.
And hype yourself up.
Yeah, hype yourself up.
Definitely.
There you go. Give yourself kind words,
yeah,
like every day.
Oh, heck
yeah. Because, believe it or not, but the more that you say things out loud, the more that you'll believe it. Like your mind will get conditioned to that.
Yeah.
And you'll just have positivity all around to share for yourself and for other people as well.
Yeah, and I think that goes back a lot to the power poses too. Like, you know, there's certain arguments that I would argue myself too, is that, you know how like, kind of a side turn, but like, you know, like with murders, like, you know, when they open their brain up, they're like, oh, the like, you know, the hippocampus is like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So like with things like that, like it's a debate in my mind as to chicken before the egg. Like, was it that their mind was predisposed to being developed like that, and through their habits they grew that? Or is it that, like, just directly, like, what they perpetuated is what grew and what shrunk? So, like, which I would probably argue a little bit of both, but nonetheless, like, so practicing what you preach and basically, like, doing things that will help walk the walk. And like I think that's what you're saying with like saying kind things to yourself, because also like why wouldn't you say kind things to yourself?
Right. Like, and sometimes I understand that it's hard to believe, and for a lot of people it's awkward at first. You know, you're trying it out, something new, and it feels kind of weird saying it out loud, a positive affirmation, but you'll get used to it over time. And I think the more that you say it, the more confidence that you'll build in saying it in different ways too. Like maybe at first you kind of thought it in your head, and then you said it out loud, just like in a tone that we're doing right now. Maybe next time that you shout it out loud, and maybe another time that you do it in front of the mirror. So you get used to that pattern, and it's almost like it comes naturally eventually. Yeah,
and like a lot of, I think, since they say so much of a predominance of language and not language but communicating is nonverbal, I think a really easy way to do this, or not easy but like a stepping stone, would be through like your style, because like that's like something that like my friends and I talk about. Is first of all, like we obviously, like as girls, we dress for ourselves, and then like if people appreciate it, that's really cool too. But like the point is that like the thing that we always joke about is we'll like catching ourselves in the mirror or something, or walking somewhere and be like, hey, like that's a cute fucking fit, you know? Like, so like that's an easy way where like if you aren't at the place where you can genuinely think that about like some features of you or your mental state or anything like that, start with like, you know, something small, like some cool ass shoes, or like a nice jacket, get a hair. Yeah, exactly. Do something. Like you only have one run, just do something, like do whatever you want outside of violence. I'll just keep restating that, outside of violence.
Reinforce that.
Or outside of non-consent. But like, but nonetheless, like do something like that, because then at least when you look in the mirror, you're just like, hey, like that's freaking cool, and like talk to yourself. Like that's so much fun.
Yeah, and if you continue to find it hard to believe, make your statement or develop them in a different way. For example, like if you've ever always thought that you're stupid, right? Instead of saying I'm smart, maybe you'll say something instead like I'm on the path of getting good grades in school. Like that way you can kind of see the transition into you actually putting in the work and actually seeing those results. Yeah,
and also maybe give yourself like a small goal. Like if you feel like dumb or something, like go online. Like I used to go like down rabbit holes all the time where like you just like want to learn everything about like the lore of this, and like just something that you enjoy, and like just find out a bunch of information about it, and then like you're not dumb. Like, you're not dumb at all, first of all. And then if you want to at least like show yourself, like just learn something little or new. And then just like when you're talking to someone, just like, talk to them about it or something. Like, I learned something weird about moose, that they're like, I think they're like the number one predator of like killer whales, or number two.
The animal?
Yes. I was like, how does one get to the other? Like, one's on land. Like, but apparently that's it. Hannah told me that.
Yes. Killer whales?
The killer whale kills the moose.
Oh, okay.
But like, how are there so many moose out in the freaking like?
I think moose do swim.
They swim, but like that often that they're just snacking on them.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Right, so like just learn.
I'm gonna fact check that.
I had to too, yeah. So please do.
Was it true?
Yeah, it was like, I think it was like the second. It was like literally the second like most eaten animal that they eat or something.
Really?
It was weird. Yeah, it was weird.
I did not know that.
I'm gonna look it up again because now I'm also still in a state of disbelief. But like,
wait, how does this connect?
Oh, because like learn something little. So like if you feel
okay.
dumb, or you feel like, whatever thing that you're irking at yourself the most about, number one, is that your thought or is it someone else's thought, like we've talked about before? Mm-hmm. And number two, like, let's do something little to change it so that you can like, you can change anything you want at any time. Like every single second is a chance to turn it around and do whatever you want.
Right, and take some initiative, because I think sometimes people forget how much free will
they
have.
Yes.
So like if you think that you're bad at something, which there's always room for progress and improvement. Mm-hmm. Just go on Google, look it up, how to do something, how to DIY,
or get a book, or go to a library.
Yeah, that's free, by the way.
The library's free, man. Like you get a bunch of stuff for free too, like internet access, and movies, and like
you get a lot of resources for free. Mm-hmm. I would know. I have 3 library cards.
That's a flex, though.
Yeah, I'm trying
Such
to get
flex.
more.
Heck yeah, I need to actually go, because some of them give you like straight up like bus passes and stuff like that.
Some of them do, I think.
And national parks and stuff like that. Yeah, I gotta go.
Yeah, you should get a library card in your city or wherever, because you'll be surprised how many free stuff that you get.
Mm-hmm. And also, I know this is a little, it's correlated though, but if you guys haven't ever watched Adventure Time, and you like, I think that helps too, is like surrounding yourself with content that is like so sweet and uplifting, has good messages and good learning, and like there's little things that you can learn all along the way. And as Jake the dog says, sucking at something is the first step to getting really good at it. So if you suck at something, like just keep sucking at it, and then one day you will be good at it, like I promise. Because like sometimes when I was learning Japanese, like hiragana is one of the alphabets, and it's a new symbol, like it can't correlate to like A, B, and C, and I was not freaking clicking it in. I made flashcards, I was trying, and like finally just one random day just click, and like ever since then I know like hiragana now.
Well, because you made a habit out of it, and they say it takes 21 days to build a habit, which give or take, I'm sure it's different for some people. Maybe for some it's faster, or some it takes longer. And don't pressure yourself either. Like things take time.
Yeah.
And what other people, like how they succeed, might not be the same way that you succeed. So compare. What's that saying? Comparison is the thief of joy.
Ah, that's a good one.
That's pretty hard. I know.
We're dropping bars today.
It's true though. Never compare yourself to others either, because that is something that's gonna continue that negative self-talk. Like I'm not as good as other people, and that's not anything that you should be doing to yourself. If anything, let that show you as an example of like, okay, this is what I can do. Maybe I can get similar results as them, or maybe I'll take it my own way, make it unique, put your own spin to it.
Heck yeah. And then even with that note too, you don't know how often someone practices in private. So like they might look really good and like natural at it and everything, but what if they like literally practice every single day, and you don't see the suffering that happens at home?
You don't know what's going on behind closed doors for them to even get to that point. And you may have other priorities in your life that you have to attend to first before engaging in that sort of activity that you're interested in. So try your best in making time for yourself and learning new things. And don't punish yourself. Like maybe some days you don't have the time to fulfill your goals like that. And that's okay. Just pick it up again when you have time next time.
And everyone's circumstances are so absolutely different, and uniquely different, that like coming back to the idea of like, don't compare yourself, because also think of it this way, like there's always going to be think of all the people in the world, a lot of them are unhappy, and a lot of them are rich and unhappy, like so if you don't have like economic means or something like that, that's not a reason to like drown in the suffering. There's a ton of people that are unhappy, and so I think the first step is to take that out of it, because there's also a practice called stoicism. And basically what it is, it's ancient Greeks had practiced this, and it's basically the understanding that you can't control the things that happen around you because they're happening by other people or objects or things or weather, but you can control how you respond to those things.
That's so true. Because I remember seeing a TED Talk once, and I believe they were talking about something, it was synthetic happiness, I believe. And it's the ability for people to find happiness even in situations that they didn't expect, and when things don't go their way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and you just kind of roll with the punches. I mean, as long as it's obviously not like trauma or something like that, get out of it. You know what I mean? Just escape. But as far as like, or find a way to get out of that. But other than that, like with things you can control in your life, like just bad weather or like your car breaks down or like, I don't know, someone cuts you off. I'm just thinking of driving things now. But like you can control how you react to them. And like my mom, I don't know if this is helpful or not. She might say it at another time. I'll just say it. The way that she gets out of like getting road rage is she'll just like imagine that like whoever like cut her off or whatever has like explosive diarrhea and that they have to get somewhere, so she doesn't get mad. She's like, oh, you go. So like I don't know if that's helpful at all, but like
I'm sure some people will find it helpful.
Oh, Mom.
But you can't. It just goes to show that you can control your reaction. You don't always have to give people that energy when they're trying to make you upset.
Yeah, and even if they're not, like, because a lot of people are just like ignorant of like what's going on around them.
Oh yeah.
And they don't even realize like. I was in a car like not too recently where like the driver was like talking to me and he was like, oh, do we make a left here? And like I was like, oh yeah, and then he zooms back into the straight lane and then goes, oh, it is, and goes back into the left. But it like cut someone off hard because he went straight, and then left again. And I just hear out the window like yelling, and he la la la. He just did not even notice.
That's funny. It's not funny because
it was scary funny. You know, like, oh, I'm in danger. But like, yeah.
Yeah. But overall, I think this is a very important topic to discuss, to remind everyone that they do have the control in their lives to bring that positivity for themselves.
And like, no matter the situation or how dark things may seem, there's always another day and another moment, and you never know what can happen because life is so crazy in so many wonderful ways. That you can always keep a good attitude and try your best and at least start building from within and finding things to love about yourself. And then once that is accomplished, then it gets a lot easier to love the things around you too.
Yeah, and just trust the process and trust yourself as well.
You trust the process.
Yeah. Trust that everything's going to be okay.
And also keep an eye out for serendipity. Like, that's my favorite word because of what it means and because it's fun to say. But there's little things where, like, it just so happens that you were a minute late, but then all the lights on the way to work were green. Like, you know? So, like, there's those little things where everything just clicks and comes together.
Yeah.
And, like, learn to appreciate those, too, because maybe that's a little sign that, like, even if it's rough, like, you're going the right way still.
Exactly. Find, like, the little things to be grateful for every day.
Yeah. And it just makes everything a little bit more magical, too.
Definitely.
And, yeah. But thanks for joining us. This has been the Philosophical Goob-za, because there's two. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.